present ourselves as humans first, we can establish that base level relationship and then build from there.
Correct.
So you have countless stories, when you're talking with people who might have different beliefs, but you're not cognizant of that in that moment. You're not thinking of it.
Right.
So you can talk to that person like you would with anybody.
Correct.
Hey everybody, it's Erik once again, and we have a very special guest, my dad. So go ahead and give that a round of applause. Erik as well. And if you're looking for how to better attract relationships, then you're definitely in the right place. I know that sometimes this can be emotionally draining, this can be difficult to do. However, we're going to discuss one simple solution that can help you with that. Now, we have conversations like this all the time, being that you were working from home during that time period. Now to transitioning back in the office, I just remember you stating how it was easier for you to connect with people via online as compared to being in person, which you would think that it would be the opposite, right? So I just wanted to ask you why you thought that was the case.
Well, I don't want to use the term introvert, but I am somewhat of an introvert.
Of course, me too.
But I think it's more of me being no nonsense. You know, when I'm at work, I want to do work. I don't want to deal with the office politics. Let me tell you, man, when I get up every morning, I stroll out, I turn my PC on. Of course, a lot of us wear pajamas or what have you.
Of course.
But it's the work in hand, I get there and my purpose is to work. My purpose is not to walk around and socialize, which I guess human interaction is good.
Of course.
But my purpose is to work. And I feel better about the work. That's what I'm mostly focused on.
Of course.
I'm not focused on the, getting in the car. Do I have to have a coat on or a hat on, driving to work?
I see.
Stressing, that light took too long. This person cut me off. I just come straight in, go to work. And so a lot of those things that upset us in life are out of the way.
Of course.
It's out of the way. And so, I know a lot of people say, hey, look, we need you in the office. We want to collaborate.
Yeah.
But the level of collaboration is pretty much non-existent,
of
man.
Course.
That it's really a bunch of inconvenience,
Yes, sir. So what you're saying is there could be other contributing factors that limit the connections that you guys have, like regular stress.
Yeah.
You have to worry about gas in the car. You have to worry about daycare if you have young children.
Right.
You have to worry about, how you're going to dress, how you're going to perceive yourself at
Right.
work.
Right.
You have to deal with other people's attitudes and stuff like that as well.
That is true.
So I think that's definitely an underrated aspect of being able to work from home. You don't have to deal with all of those little logistical issues,
right,
as well as issues as it pertains to dealing with other people.
Right.
So I also wanted to kind of ask, what are some of those? You kind of went into it a little bit, but I'll ask you to go into that with a little more detail. What are some of those issues that you do face when you go in? And just to preface, you are hybrid right now, right?
Right, correct.
So you're going in.
Correct.
And some days you are at home. But what are some of those issues that you deal with when you are going in?
Well, like I said, basically traffic. But let me give you some examples, and I'm gonna take this back before the episode, right?
Of course.
I remember, of course, our office is kind of diverse. We got African American, we got Asian people, Indian, and what have you. And I remember this gentleman would bring in he was Indian, he would bring in his food. And if you know anything about people of Indian descent, their food is enriched with a lot of curry, strong smells, or whatever. Things that probably me and you, this smells good, we want some of that or whatever.
Of course.
I remember he would come in the office and and heat up his food, and it would let off this strong smell of curry, and people would walk to the office and they would complain. What is that? Ugh, what is he cooking? Or whatever. Me understanding a little bit about his culture would be more tolerant.
Of course.
Like, that man's eating his food.
Of course.
That's his native food.
Definitely.
But that was one distraction we didn't need.
Of course. Of course.
Why are we having to explain that this man likes curry?
Of course.
The young gentleman from Jamaica brings in his jerk or his what have you. It's just something else that did not aid in the work. You know what I'm saying?
Of course. Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up as an example. It's like when you guys were interacting, communicating via online, you guys don't have any visual exposure as to the elements that make you guys different.
Right.
You guys are merely connecting for the fact that you're humans.
Right.
And you know what? You shouldn't need any other reason to do so. And I'm not saying that your increased humanity per se came about as a result of you guys merely communicating via online, because we know that people online like to put themselves in really rigid boxes,
right? And
they like to allow that to separate themselves from other people.
Correct.
But it's how you guys were conducting yourselves online. It's like the fact that you were operating online, kind of in a weird way, made you humanize each other. As compared to being in person, you know, kind of in a weird way, forced you guys to do that.
Right.
And I feel like through that, you guys realized that you probably had more similarities and commonalities than what you realized.
Right.
Where
everybody pretty much, I felt like, wanted the same thing. They wanted to work, wanted to earn their money, wanted to do a good job, and also wanted to have free time with their families.
Of course.
They wanted to be able to, be productive. I mean, look, I noticed when I first started working full time, virtual, I was putting in more time.
Of course.
Than in the office. I had no problem. I leave my computer up, and typically my work schedule is 8 to 4, right? 6 o'clock, I walk past the PC. I see somebody on the evening shift working on something that I'm familiar with. Log on, jump in there,
real quick,
give them information. Typically, when we go to the office, we're less likely to do that.
Of course. Of course.
We get off work, maybe stop by the grocery store, pick the kids up, come home, drop the laptop off on the table, and the laptop will sit there until the next morning.
Forget about it. Yeah, forget about it.
So,
and I understand because, physically going to a place that requires a whole other set of energy, a whole nother set of energy.
Right.
Because I feel like, in addition to having that increased energy,
right,
just to be able to do that extra work when need be, you don't see those differences because you tell me all the time about those people who might have different political beliefs, or things of that nature, and you're at the bar having a drink with them, enjoying being around their company, because you don't let those distinctions, those differences, get in the way. Right. So I believe that that's the most important solution that we can derive. Right. Is just presenting yourselves as a human first.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when we first got TVs put up in the office. All of the TVs were on CNN, and there was a group of people that came through the office, and it's like, hey, you got these TVs on the CNN. Why can't they be on Fox?
Of course.
Right. And so, next thing I know, I look, and some TVs are on Fox. Some TVs are on CNN.
Of course.
People walking past the Fox TVs, they were complaining.
Of course.
People walking past CNN were complaining. Then they put all the TVs on the Weather Channel.
Crazy.
If you think about that, when you're not in the office, you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
You don't.
I mean, at home, you have a conference call, you turn your video on, you take care of business. If you got your Fox TV running in the background, so be it. If you got your CNN running in the background, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you, whatever you listen to, those distractions aren't around when you're working virtual.
Of course.
Petty things,
Of course.
I remember one time I was in the office and a young lady used to wear perfume, and somebody complained that the smell of her perfume offended them. This kind of stuff prohibits productivity.
That's true.
You know?
Prohibits productivity, and also prohibits the types of connections that you could be having with people.
Right.
Like the situation with CNN and Fox.
Right.
That's just tribalism.
Exactly.
You know, that's just tribalism. And we as humans need to stop allowing these petty things to separate us, to keep us isolated from one another, especially if we intend to build these relationships.
Right.
Because when we present ourselves as humans first, we can establish that base level relationship and then build from there.
Correct.
So you have countless stories, you know, when you're talking with people who might have different beliefs, but you're not cognizant of that in that moment. You're not thinking of it.
Right.
So you can talk to that person like you would with anybody.
Correct.
You know, and I think that there's great power in doing that.
I've seen instances where people sit around and they talk about politics. None of that stuff has any place in order for it.
Of course not. Of course.
And then so I've seen people, you know what? I've had for Republican, you're a Democrat. I've seen people stop talking to one another.
That's crazy.
Because of that.
Yeah.
And that hinders the work relationship.
It does.
You know?
It does.
You know, so my thing that I learned the most about working virtual, I mean, I know people in their views. That's fine. We have a plethora of different views.
Of course.
It's okay.
It's okay.
But at the end of the day, we're doing this service to the companies we work for.
But in addition to doing the workplace a disservice, we do ourselves a disservice by disallowing ourselves to maintain certain relationships with people who have different views.
Right.
You know, if it's about connectivity, you have to know how to connect with people that are outside of your scope.
That is true.
That might see things a little different from you.
That is true.
You know, as long as everything is cordial and respectful, you can have a connection with anybody.
Right.
For sure.
But I think also too what the workforce does is the workforce force connections.
Of course.
Connections should happen naturally.
Of course.
You know, they say, oh look, we need to get together and we need to collaborate. We need to come up with some ideas. Forcing ideas is not the key to innovation.
Of course.
Most innovative ideas have came from need or a natural type of environment. You know, forced ideas usually end up. Somebody goes and they're like, "Hey, look, I want to be the best at my office, right?" So they go home and I need to come up with an idea. And they come. It's usually horrible.
Word.
It's typically usually horrible. The best ideas are fluid, or they come from a need. You come home, you sit down, and I've had experiences like that. We needed to do something, and we needed a better approach. Those are where the best ideas. You get a bunch of people in a room. They might not even be creative. You get a bunch of people in a room, it might not be their best environment. But we put them together. We say, look, you need to collaborate on an idea that will allow us to come up with this. I don't think that's how things naturally flow.
Of course.
Most of these big companies, big tech companies, they keep people in a more relaxed environment.
Of course.
But when you're home and you're in your natural environment and you need to come up with a solution, it's easy to create a flow. You know?
Because your brain's relaxed.
Exactly. This is kind of what I see in the workforce. Collaboration is forced. You know. is cookie cutter.
Of course.
And it's lack of innovation. When you cookie cut something, when you say, hey, look, we need to do this, A, B, C, D, here's the problem, this is what we need to do, the results you're gonna get are not gonna be that creative.
The word. Yeah, that I was about to say that leaves no room for creative thought.
No.
And also you commented on innovation.
Yeah.
At this point, I think innovation is a marketing tool.
Yes.
I think companies say that.
If they truly wanted innovation, they wouldn't take art out of schools.
That's true.
They wouldn't take music out of schools.
That's true.
That part of our brain is where innovation comes from. You know, and so they want to keep kids in a straight, orderly fashion, but then they want them to be innovative.
That's true.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. And so it doesn't quite work like that.
That's true. And I talked about that as it pertains to art and creativity, how they take it out of schools. But then when you get out of school, they expect you to be able to think creatively through problems.
Where does that come from? Automatically.
Word, exactly. So I'm glad that, I'm doing this. I make a little music,
right?
But I can engage with my creative side.
Right.
But at the same time, I have to make time to do it.
Right.
Nobody asked me to do this. Nobody asked me to do other artistic things that I might delve into.
Right.
Same as you. So I think as you take that out of society more and more, and you force people to think technically or mathematically all the time, how are you going to get an employee that's able to think critically, think creatively, simultaneously?
Right.
And that's all I have for today. Like we mentioned, you can generate endless relationships, meaningful connections with people, just as long as you present yourself as human first. As you can see, me and my dad, we talk about a myriad of topics all the time. We touched on a few different topics here in this video as well. And if you derived any value from this, please comment that down below. Thank you to everyone who's been liking and subscribing. It's amazing. So I thank you guys for enabling that. And if you haven't subscribed or you're not liking the videos, then I ask you to go ahead and do that, because we're building a great community here and I'd love for you to be a part of that. And with that being said, God has a purpose for your life. Thank you for allowing me to make my contribution.
You can finish, too.
I'm not gonna say it.